After a long period of restoration, one of Italy's most famous archaeological treasures, the House of Viti, is reopening to the public. The house's extensive collection of fresco wall paintings includes lots of erotic art. But while some of the commenters have claimed that the house's original owners were preoccupied with sex or even running a brothel, a gay Roman historian has said that those claims show misunderstanding about the role queer sex played in ancient Rome. A gay researcher has written extensively on this and said that evidence of same-sex intercourse has been preserved in Pompeii's sexually explicit artifacts and graffiti, but a lot of it has been disavowed or at least purified by mainstream modern culture. Translation, the Catholic Church. A lot of these artifacts were designated as pornography and moved to secret museums in the early 1800s. Question 5. With a Bacardi shot, I'd swallow that. I just knew it. That a great gay porn title would have been Gladiators of Rome after the new gay sex ruins are discovered. I'm drinking to that.
I'll drink to that. Of course.
That's the name. I'll drink.
You know that we went to, God, I was so blessed to go on that trip with you, Al, last year when we went to Rome, and it was just wonderful. And I think that the icing on the cake was to go with Darrell and Robert from Sunshine Cathedral, because I got to learn, I got to learn all these great historical things about queer people in history, And one of the stories that he told us was about these two gladiators called Priscus and Verus. And they met while they were training to be gladiators, and they stayed together. And they did a whole big play about it, and it was just not a thing. Everybody was just so fluid. You had sex. It was like that movie Caligula that I love, by the way. And if you haven't seen it, see it. It's a lot of sex and a lot of naked people. But that was just the norm. There was not, you're a male, so you have to have sex with a female. It was just go to town, have a great time, and do it. And it's part of the history.
With a name like Verse, I could see why.
Rome. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just wondering. So this is where the big dick energy comes from, when seeing all the big dicks on all the walls and things, and knowing that if you had a big dick, you was automatically empowered and could give to whomever you wanted, and they were willing to take it if the dick was smaller.
Get a time machine.
That's a question. Think about it, because it lives today that the bigger your dick, quote unquote, the better you looked upon in society.
Well, not necessarily, though. Some of the art does not depict big dicks at all, especially if you look at the Roman and Greek, statues of gods and goddesses. Their parts are not as big, and they still have the most power available to them. I think what it is in a lot of cultures, you eat part of them and you take it within them. Bone marrow to gain their strength, brains to gain their intellect. They're come for whatever, but, I'm here for it.
What exactly? Do explain.
I've been to Pompeii 3 times, and each time in the tours, I've been lucky in terms of how I visited. So it's a behind-the-scenes kind of touring experience. And a lot of people don't realize Pompeii was a celebration basically full of brothels.
It's a party city.
And it was a party city.
It was like Puerto Vallarta.
It was Puerto Vallarta.
it was Wilton Manors, but just with women.
Right. It was a full day
right.
From Rome. And you would go down, and they would have an amphitheater, and the gladiators would fight, and it was close to the seashore, and there was a beach, and you were having lots and lots of sex. And the brothels were not a exclusively heterosexual experience.
Exactly.
And you would go in. I remember the first time I went to the brothels, I would look at paintings on the wall, and there's a very, very famous painting that survived. The Vatican and the Pope and the Catholic Church removed lots from Pompeii. But one of the survivors is a netting of a hand that is holding the penis phallic symbol, holding it up, and it's a gigantic phallic. And if you Google penis in Pompeii.
Big penis in Pompeii.
Right, big penis.
Google that.
That's a
But
great
it's also,
name.
I think, it's interesting because sometimes you wonder, was it normal, or was it more normal to have sex with a slave or someone that was beneath your class? And that's where things get a little tricky. It's like, was I having sex with my friend, or was I having sex with someone that I can manhandle because they were beneath me?
Yeah.
But they go, look. So those stories are those people who got elevated in the house. And so although they were slaves, they still became your friend. And the benefits came because we had sex. And so you got maybe treated a little different. You got the best of the clothes
I love
and the
that.
wine, where the slaves may not got the best of the rations. And so it's kind of a balanced kind of thing. And I also still believe it was their way of rationalizing, I'm having that sex with a man, but he's getting the best. And so it's a relationship, not just a...
And it's
similar, I
interesting to me. I have to say, in history, for especially for gay men, I won't even include the entire acronym. For gay men, it is such an interesting period of time, about 50 BC to about 150 AD. For that 200 years, literally, people don't understand. Rome was the most powerful empire on the planet. You could literally walk the Roman road, the aqueducts, the technology that they had from Istanbul all the way into France. And because you were Roman, you would not be touched. You weren't worried about bandits. You were worried about nothing because Rome was dominant. And when you went to Rome, you got to see it. And you see the Colosseum and the ruins at the Forum. One of the most interesting things to me of this 200-year period is this classification segment that you talk about. And gladiators were not elite. They weren't the Senate class. They weren't the elite of Rome, but they were revered. And revered is the right word.
They were like basketball players. Okay?
Exactly.
They were like a pro athlete.
Yeah, they're Tom Brady's if you're the top
And
gladiator.
they're virile because they can take out someone, and so they got all the best. But think about also this: not only the Spartacus and those kind of that glamour of all that, the women would take the slave as well because the power that they could give her.
Yeah.
But isn't Rome also the place of the bathhouse?
Well, and
baths.
that's where I was going. The other thing that's fascinating to me is all the way to Bath in England, which is a Roman ruin. The baths in Rome and places like Pompeii are legendary because if you were at a certain status, that's how you bathed. You bathed every day, and they had the technology to be able to do hot water and cold water, so you were bathing every day. And from the baths, the creation of human orgy began in this time period.
No lube, we've got the baths.
I have read stories where literally 1,000 people are in an orgy in Rome. And now,
I was just in your 20s.
and imagine your sexuality in that environment no longer is of any consequence. It's just, oh, I like you, or I like this, or and then we pursue
If I could put this in the religious context, because when I was evangelical, and we would be reading and studying about Jesus's time and everything, all of this, of course, is omitted, right? And so there are various passages in the Bible when they're talking about, having sex with these younger people, and I would always be asking these questions. I was like, well, why is nobody saying anything about this? Why is this still permitted? And then I went down this kind of dive about all of this going on and what was normal. And I'm like, so you're telling me this conservative thing that you all are talking about, this is modern, like the actual conservative and what is natural and what is
There
been.
it is.
And I'm like, so why are we not, like, if we were able to actually teach history the way that it was, we wouldn't have this homophobia, and this is the first attack that we have.
I'm going to move on, but let me just point out that's not evangelicals 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago that are writing books of our Bible. That happened this month in the state of Florida,
Yeah, sure
from
did.
the governor's mansion. So that's what you've just summarized. Let's move on. LGBTQ plus news is vital for our community and for the broader world as a whole. We have enough enemies at Fox News. Tucker, Sean, and Laura are loud. We need passionate allies. Happening Out Television Network, Queer News Tonight, and It's Happening Out are literally out of the closet and into the headlines. Our community needs your support. Like this broadcast and subscribe now to ensure the growth of the entire LGBTQ plus community.